On this episode of the Course Café, Mike Forsey didn't come from design school, he came straight from the factory. With no formal training, but decades of obsession, he's helped shape the future of golf footwear. One patent, one prototype, one conversation at a time. At Payntr Golf, the shoe isn't just style, it's equipment. It was built from scratch, tuned by athlete feedback, and tested under the pressure of life. This is about performance, integrity, and the quiet craft behind it all. This is Payntr Golf. Let's get into it. We were just talking about where we lived, but you being in Lake Oswego, how long have you been on the West Coast then?
So I came out here to work for Nike in 1995.
Okay.
So yeah, June 1st, 1995. So we've been out here a long time. We love it out here. Would not think about living anywhere else.
Did you ever live in Beaverton or were you always in Lake-O?
Lake-O, but obviously commuted to Beaverton for 16 years.
Okay.
So,
I worked at Nike's campus. What years was that? 2013 through 2016. And I lived in Beaverton, like near the Costco. So I was like, I rode my bike to the campus every day.
Oh, that's nice. That's nice.
Yeah. I didn't get stuck on the 217 ever.
Oh, that's brutal. It gets worse. They're supposedly trying to make it better, but it just keeps getting worse.
No, I don't think you can.
I may have been on the Nike campus. I may have been in 6 different buildings over my 16 years. So
yeah,
my 13 years, my first 13 years was all Nike golf. So I did golf footwear, and then I picked up bags and gloves, oversaw our licensed business, all from a product creation, product management perspective. And then my last 3 years at Nike Inc., I actually worked for Kohan, but sat on the Nike campus. So we officially worked for Kohan out of Maine and New York, but we had a 4-person product creation team that sat on the campus. So
that's awesome. Where did you go to school?
So I went to school at Suffolk University on Beacon Hill in Boston, Massachusetts.
Okay.
There's a school of management there and a law school there. So I
was that for
a law school? So I went the management route.
It wasn't like industrial design or anything?
No, nothing related to that. So I've got a weird kind of background in that I've never actually put pen to paper. I've always had really good partners like Michael Clancy, our creative director here. I probably have, a half dozen patents starting back at, FootJoy and Reebok and Nike. They all obviously own those. But it's always been just trying to figure things out. I started in development at FootJoy, worked with a designer, and I was responsible for offshore sourced product. So anything made outside of the country. I did have the luxury there when I was at FootJoy. I had the luxury of working. My office was in the factory. So
interesting.
This was, probably at the time. So this was early 90s. It was one of, I would say, a half dozen footwear factories still in operation in the United States. The nice thing is that was Goodyear Welt Construction, but similar things as far as cut and sew. I could go a 4-floor factory. I could go and watch them cut calfskin in the morning, watch them sole, watch them last product, watching them assemble product. It was an unbelievable education. And then when we were going to Asia, we would go to Asia for a good month, 5 or 6 weeks at a time. So you got a great schooling on, just shoemaking in general. You could work with, pattern makers and, mold makers, just the factories, just in general. You'd spend a lot of time there because it just took you so long to get there. And you wanted to stay and watch the process. But fiscally, it was probably more responsible to stay there longer but
Hmm.
an unbelievable, you know, for me, opportunity. Obviously, golf is a passion, but I've done this for goodness, 35 years now. So,
Yeah. So
yeah,
when you're in college, you get out of college, did you always have like a thirst or like, I don't know,
yes,
an interest like in that field and then
yeah,
you just kind of wandered there? That's
yeah.
so interesting.
So, Raymond, I worked at a, a footwear and clothing store in high school and college. And I told you I grew up on the East Coast, and Peabody, Massachusetts had Saucony, Spot Built in Saucony was in my
Mm,
hometown. I graduated from Suffolk on Sunday, and I went to work for Spot Built in Saucony on Monday.
wow.
So yeah, I don't know, for whatever reason, footwear is the only thing I've ever wanted to do. So
Hmm.
yeah, so
Was that just out of like your personal hobbies? Like you were just super interested in it, just from like a total product standpoint?
complete, yeah, complete. It's starting like, probably, and this is like before, it's before, Jordan. I just had this fascination with footwear.
Hmm.
We were selling, at the clothing store I worked at, we were selling like, nylon Cortez, leather Cortez, Sambas, you know, and then we also sold Timberland boots and Herman Survivors, and I just kept, it was a footwear location, but we had a footwear section. I mean, an apparel store, but we had a footwear section. I kept going over there. I'd be
Hmm.
there when somebody would come in. I just gravitated to that, and I made that area look great. And I always like kind of in my downtime, I would open a box and look at how it was put together and, what materials we used and what the quality looked like. It was funny. Nike was using two different manufacturers, and I knew which Cortez from which country was better than the other. So
Interesting.
I'd pull that out personally for me. But if I were looking to take care of a customer, I'm going to pull that shoe out that I know comes from that particular, that particular country. So
Hmm.
yeah, I don't know why. It was just a weird thing, but it's the only thing I've ever wanted to do.
Interesting. I mean, it's very somewhat similar to like Tinker Hatfield's story, where he's an architect. I wanted to be an architect out of high school. I graduated high school in 2008, which was like the period in time when you didn't want to get into the housing market by any means. And so for me, I also wanted to play college football. Oregon was like kind of out of the sphere in terms of costs and stuff. Couldn't get a scholarship there. So my plan was to do a few years at Division II and then transfer to Oregon for architecture. But like through the process, I had no idea about marketing or anything. I just wasn't like exposed to any of that. So kind of fell in love with like the storytelling and stuff. I was one of those kids who always had a camera with my cousins and we would videotape everything and just story tell.
Yeah,
And then like what I like to tell people, the medium that I'm in now, it feels like somewhat of a digital architect. But going back to like Tinker Hatfield, an
sure.
architect, he understood design and then footwear was like something he became obsessed about. So I don't know, like the symmetry is really interesting.
It'd be interesting to ask Tinker too, like how did he get the storytelling piece of it? Because everything that he had done, everything that he does starts with the research that he does and what is going on right now in whatever athlete's life and how to bring that to life within whatever he's working on. So
Hmm.
um, for me it was I like putting things together, you know, you know and as a developer, that's what you're doing, right? You're working with a designer, they're putting pen to paper, you work with a factory and you say, okay, what last are we going to choose? What materials are we going to choose? What's going in your tech pack to make a physical sample?
Hmm.
And then when I got to Reebok, we lost our product line manager. So I was kind of forced to do both, which was a nice like combination. Like I knew, how to put it together, and then I needed to figure out how to make it um, like significant or meaningful. And even though we were putting these components in it, was that meaningful to the consumer? I could talk, TPU outsole, but then you kind of have to get it into the consumer language. What is the benefit of that? Why is it meaningful to me? It's that kind of, so it was a nice marriage for that. And then when Nike called, that would have been in January of 95. That was pre-Tiger. So that was like almost 2 years pre-Tiger, different world at that point. It was, hey, do it all, like put a team together and do it all, which was like, I was pretty young at the time too. And it was, we don't have anyone with this experience. And I had been at 2 golf footwear brands at that point. We don't have anyone in that role here, come on out and do it, which was just, it was awesome. It was awesome.
A dream come true situation. Yeah.
It really was.
So if we fast forward to Payntr, like what was some of the steps that led you into taking what was an idea at the time into like a full-fledged, I guess, like category or umbrella brand within the Payntr brand?
Yeah. So David and I had connected on LinkedIn, and that was like long before he even approached me to look at me and Michael. Then I reached out to Michael, but it was long before that where he said, we need to have this connection of the brand itself, the Payntr brand. We liked personally because of the mark, because of this like sub brand called Performance Multiplied, and that's actually Performance Multiplied is actually where the mark comes from. It's just a stylized multiplication sign, and we liked what he was doing in specialty cleated footwear. So lacrosse, field hockey, and then cricket. And then David's an ex-professional cricket player. He has a unique story in that cricket footwear at the time, and I know nothing about cricket footwear. At the time, it was very heavy. It was very not very flexible. And it kind of reminded me of my story when I started at FootJoy, and we had Goodyear welted product with leather outsoles and Goodyear welt construction that were heavy, and they weren't very flexible. And it took you a couple of years to break them in. Well, David, he's like, I see a solution to this. I'm going to take my trainers and I'm going to bring them to a cobbler. I'm going to put spikes in them. And then he started doing it for his teammates. And then when he got injured and needed to retire, he said, I think I can make a business out of this. Now that story he told like 2 years prior to us even ever doing business together. And he called, and I had just left another company and I had retired. So I was like done. And he reached out to say, hey, I've got customers that want to get us into golf footwear, but I have no idea how to do it. Can you help? And you can set it up however you want. And I said to David at the time, I go, David, the last thing the golf industry needs is another footwear brand. I said that to him. I go, it's not, He goes, well, go away and think about it. And if you think there's a unique positioning that we could use the Payntr brand to bring to market, then let's put something together. So I kind of went away and I, at the time I got Mike involved in it, Michael Glancy involved in it. And so there was 2 things going on in golf footwear. Most golf footwear brands were going more towards the fashion element of footwear. And as either, a statement or a compliment to what they were doing in apparel.
What year was this?
So this would have been 2019.
Okay, that's what I thought. And did you have any like non-competes at the time?
No,
Okay.
no, I had retired, and I've retired twice now. My wife says I'm not very good at it. Um, but so when and I was like completely happy to move back here to Lake Oswego, kind of enjoy playing golf, and he just said, go away and like figure it out. Like, I
Mm-hmm.
know there's something there. And again, now we had liked the mark, and, we had liked the brand, and we liked this thing called Performance Multiplied. So there was something intriguing there. But what was happening in golf footwear was this, like, G4 had come into the mix. So you have, Massimo, it's all about fashion. You've got, other brands that are taking, silhouettes or models that were designed and developed in other categories and moving them into golf.
Mm-hmm.
And then on the teaching side of golf, you had instructors and coaches that were talking about leveraging the ground to generate more power, to get responsiveness, energy return, to harness ground reaction forces. So there's two different juxtapositions, right? You got fashion, and then you've got this function on the entire different side. So and then there was a technology that was developed by another company that will remain nameless, but inspired us, that had been banned at the time by the running community, that inspired us to look at a propulsion plate. And that was about energy return, responsiveness, the springboard effect. And we're like, okay, we're stationary. And, in golf footwear, things are done from a traction perspective. The biomechanics of the golf swing it happens in 3-dimension. So it happens rotationally. So you want to prevent your feet from rotating out or slipping out from under you. You want to support horizontally with weight shift when you take the club back. And then this third dimension is like pushing into the ground, like squatting and using your body to push into the ground and get that rush back of energy return to that you can bring as far as club head speed to the golf ball. So you have guys like, you've got guys like Rory and Justin Thomas that are pretty small guys that push into the ground and they hit it a long way.
Mm-hmm.
Those that leverage or those that use the ground properly or use the ground effectively are going to be able to hit it a long way. So we said, okay, we're going to start with this technology. We did some testing on it. We worked with a biomechanist, and the biomechanist said, you got something here. So every one of our shoes today has that propulsion plate technology, spikeless, men's, women's. We even make the midsole of our smaller youth or women's products softer, so that smaller frame of a woman or a youth, they don't have to work as hard to get the same responsiveness and energy return back.
Mm-hmm.
It's Newton's third law, right? So you for every action, there's an equal and opposite reaction. You push into the ground, you're getting that back in energy return responsiveness. So it's just up to us to make that more easier, more effective, more efficient for the golfer. They're already doing it. The pros are doing it probably better than anybody else. But even the recreational player pushes into the ground. And you do it in every sport. It doesn't matter. You play football, you're pushing into the ground to run, you're pushing into the ground to cut. In basketball, you're shooting and you're pushing into the ground, you're getting that energy and responsiveness. We use on the other end of the spectrum, we use this running in sand analogy where your feet are moving out from under you, and you personally have to work harder. You get, your calorie burns go up. Your energy is just personally, you have to work harder because your feet are slipping out from under you. You're getting no responsiveness, no energy in return that you can use personally. So that's where the concept came from, and that's what's kind of set us apart to this day. And we started with more athletic aesthetic in our upper designs. But now with Jason coming on board in the last 18 months or so, we've gone more classic, but the technology platform is the same.
Mm-hmm. So when David sent you off just to kind of think about things, did you have like an internal board of advisors, people that you leaned on to ask whether or not this made any sense, or is it just like a gut decision?
So that's when I reached out to Michael, and I had by that time I had put together a business plan.
Okay.
And the business plan included, who we want to be as a brand. Mm-hmm. And that the first thing, and it's still in our business plan today, the first thing is we need to think in golf footwear, we need to think like an equipment brand would think. So bring a performance advantage. So, if you're going to do a driver, it better be better than the one you did before, or better mm-hmm. than what's in the marketplace already. It's not going to be a design off. We're not going to out design anybody. But what we are going to do is we're going to bring a performance advantage. So then that became our technology platform. And our positioning was that, hey, we wanted to own this kind of upper right-hand quadrant of, hey, we want to be, performance driven. And then athletics, it started as an athletics aesthetic kind of in this realm, mm-hmm. more like Achilles notch. Definitely the lines are more athletic, and it ends up more, classic in the design, but same technology platform in there. So we came back with a complete business plan so it went from, hey, Mike, go away, and I'm thinking about retiring, and I come back with this entire business plan to David. He's like, let's do it. Let's go.
Did you have any like sketches or briefs in terms of look or design?
None.
Or is it just all like concept?
All concept and all like Michael and I saying, and his initial designs were very similar to what we went to market with our 001 product, the first one, where we always wanted it to be in a cavity. We always wanted that propulsion plate to be sandwiched in a midsole. And we always want to look at traction, like nub design, lateral forefoot, medial heel to prevent rotation. We wanted to have zonally engineered midsole to help with horizontal support. And then the propulsion plate, we've only extended the propulsion plate. We started where it went from like heel to midfoot. Now we're into the forefoot of it in our classic product. So it keeps getting longer. It keeps getting more advanced. The Carbitex folks developed something that was, here, I'll show you. It only flexes, so it's stable in this direction, and it's flexible in this direction. I don't know how they put it together, but and that's
like the weave of how it's like constructed.
Exactly, it's the weave. Yeah, so carbon and glass fiber, and then it's in a resin, and then that gives you that. Not only do you have this, stable in one direction, flexible in the other, but it's actually in the forefoot. It's molded up at a 30 degree angle. So when you walk, you push it down, and it gives you a little energy return when you're walking the course. So we obviously use it as more of the propulsion plate, but it's gonna, the cavity opens and closes. So that's why we wanted a cavity. You get that mechanical open and closing. The cushioning, the cells, the air pockets that are in the cushioning foam, those go out and they rush back under the foot. That gives you the responsiveness. And then why it's suspended up is so you get a springboard effect. There's been a lot of golf footwear that take this and they put it so close to the street surface of the outsole that there's no springboard effect. It's about stability at that point, not about that springboard or responsiveness. So
that's fascinating. When I was at Nike, I was in the running department towards the end of my time there and got really ingrained in like their Nike run clubs. And a part of that, they had a huge emphasis on the stores, like the gait analysis they were doing. So that was when I got like, going back to your point, when you're in these factories and getting real world experience, I was like, it felt like I was getting a master's degree in the technology that actually supported new runners and advanced runners, and getting in the terminology and the idea of like what actual performance in footwear meant. So like going back to your point on treating footwear like equipment, I think is a really, it feels like something that isn't necessarily articulated well enough in the industry. Because again, from a consumer lens, there's a lot going on.
Yeah.
And Beats had a really interesting campaign, all these different features and benefits, but at the end of the day, it was about the music. But I think because of the way you guys are approaching footwear as equipment, when a consumer puts on your guys' shoes and right out of the box, they know it feels different and it feels good. That is something that's really hard to do in footwear.
Yeah. It's funny you should say that. Were you part of the, were you with running when they were doing the sub 2 hour marathon?
So I had left just before that.
Okay.
This was like Fuel Band and Nike Running Watch era.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the reason I asked that is because when we're putting our shoe together, because we have this propulsion plate, it also, and this is like the benefit of making the shoes the way we make them. Our technology actually lends to making the shoe more comfortable. Mm-hmm. When you look inside all of our shoes, we can make our shoe with Strobel construction. So most golf shoes are done with board lasted construction because they need the board for stability. So you need rear foot stability, forefoot flexibility for, to create a stable hitting platform when you're over the ball. We get our first sample back, and because of this, we can take the board out. So we've got the midsole for cushioning underfoot. We've got this, and on our Strobel sock, we use another 3 millimeters of cushioning foam, and then we put a footbed in there. So we've got 3 layers of cushioning, but then you also, it's more flexible, it's lighter in weight. So because of our technology, we're able to construct our shoes that way. Even our more classic style is comfortable right out of the box because it's Strobel lasted. It's like your trainers or your runners. So
now, is that just because it's more of an athletic style shoe? Like, but again, going back to the plate, I guess, like you said, because you're removing all the pieces that make it stiff and not flex worthy. That makes sense.
Yeah. No.
It's so interesting.
Yeah. It's just by default. It wasn't anything we planned. It just so happened. And now it's a benefit for us. Yeah.
Well, and you alluded to it too. I think being able to blend like true technology and performance with also aesthetics, like how much did that, I guess in the early days, was it more about we have to get the technology right and the aesthetics and us being able to design, like the look will also come in the future?
Yeah. So think back 5 years ago when we were looking at the market, now it's almost 6 years ago. Athletic styled golf shoes was what was at retail, was what was selling at retail. Classic had kind of taken just kind of a step back. And I think because people were looking to, they were looking for something more comfortable. You spend a lot of time in your golf shoes, so they definitely need to be comfortable. So when we started the business, we said, okay, let's get the biomechanics of the golf swing, the technology, let's get that out of the way, the function of it, let's get that out of the way first. But then let's start with something that's more athletic, inspired. And then when we had the opportunity to work with Jason Day, he wanted something that was more classic. So we adapted the technology to fit that new aesthetic, that new classic or traditional aesthetic.
So those early days when you are obsessing technology, knowing that a lot of that is like under the hood, quote unquote, was there any like internal worry that this may not hit the way you guys want it to, but you knew from a technology and performance standpoint, once people started putting the footwear on, it was going to change like their internal wiring too?
Yeah. Early on, we knew when we were doing wear testing, and I happen to be a size 9, we develop in a size 9. So, and I'm a golfer, so I was able to wear test the product, but then we're finding other people that are wear testing it. And their response to it was, this is incredible. So our one of our biggest marketing expenses is getting pros, assistant pros, and buyers into our product. Because we might go into we have independent sales reps. They may go into a green grass location and say, hey, I now represent Payntr golf brand. And, especially when we first started, they're like, who? We've got plenty of golf footwear. We don't need another brand. Well, let me send you some. And, in a couple of weeks, I'll give you a call back. And when we were doing that program still exists today. But when we started doing that, we had a 90% close rate or opening rate as far as, hey, you've tried the shoe on. What do you think? Let's put together a 12-pair order and get it started for your members. So, yeah, but it was, you never know. We're working with a really good factory partner. We knew that the quality of the product was where we wanted it to be, but you never know, it's and it's kind of, it snowballed from when we started. I can tell you what kind of put us on the rocket ship ride and we weren't ready for it was when my golf spy took our 002 shoe and named us Spikeless Shoe of the Year. Raymond, we weren't ready for it. That hit in, I can remember it hit in March of 22. We chased that shoe from an inventory perspective until December of 22. Really? We kept buying and buying, and we're working on a 90-day lead time plus transportation, and we had POs coming, and we were flying product, and we were just trying to expedite getting production in here as fast as we possibly could. But who would have thought a brand that was 18 months old at the time was going to be, Spikeless Shoe of the Year? And we go up against, you name it in the industry. Sure enough, they tested the product and said, yeah, it's the best shoe we've tested this year. So
that's unreal. That's something that I think a lot of consumers don't understand when they get super hyped about a brand or a product and they want to see it scale. Like a lot of times if brands operationally aren't set up or don't understand how to scale correctly, like that can sink a business because you're working on like net 90 terms and you're not getting paid, but you're buying exorbitant amounts of product and also shipping it out and not seeing a return for 30, 60, 90 days, depending on where those accounts are landing. Like, how did you guys, was it just a rocky boat ride or what?
Very rocky boat ride. Because you got it's on both ends of the equation, right? You got 90 to 120 day lead time from your factory. Then you sell it into your account. And to your point, it could be 60, 90, 120 days before you're, get paid for them taking your product. So we've had really good investors. And, we've been able to show the growth. We've got ARs that we can go to a bank and say, hey, we've got orders for the product. But after you've done this for now, we're going on 5 years, you now know why most businesses fail in the first 3 years. It's just capital. Yeah. It's just and we're a product driven company. So it's all about inventory for us. It's not, we have to put in our inventory in order to grow revenue, So, it's been a unique experience, but just, as rewarding as anything I've done in 35 years. So
has it ever felt like from, I guess, that specific moment, did you ever feel like you guys were able to catch your breath? Because then the next thing up was, I would assume, like the relationship with Jason Day.
Yeah, not yet.
So when, from that point on, how did the relationship with JD start to transpire?
So we were actually looking at another golfer that was in the Wasserman group. And that it didn't work out. That person signed with somebody else. But Jason's agent, Bud Martin, came to us and said, hey, we've got this unique situation in that Jason wants to work with whoever he's going to sign with, invest with. He wants to work with them on trying to execute his style. Because what Bud told us at the time is the prior two brands that he was with, and one of the brands really well, he would show up on, Thursday, and there'd be like 10 other guys dressed, in the same exact, outfit or, color blocking or whatever. And he has his own sense of style. And I think that's come through in the last 18 months, which we think is amazing. And Bud said to us, would you be willing to work with Jason on, taking not only his performance needs, his tour experience, but also his aesthetic, likes and dislikes, and incorporate that into something that you guys could develop together. And we, without hesitation, we said, yeah, absolutely. Bud's like, really? We're like, well, why wouldn't we? Like, think about that, Raymond, from a storytelling perspective that we've been able to articulate, right? Then also in one of the first, we had already talked to him. It was at Pebble Beach early on. Goodness, would have been 23. Yeah, would have been 23. And shortly thereafter, we had struck a deal, and he said, hey, I don't want, like most athletes that work with a brand, I don't want you guys to meet with me 3 or 4 times a year and go away and then come back with, a physical sample or line art or, a confirmation sample. Not only do I want to work with you, like as often as I can, as often as you'd like me to work with you, but I also want to let those that follow him, or he was saying it from his perspective, those that follow me, I want to let them in on the experience. So that's where we came up with the proto, that he wanted a proto. He actually Sharpied it on his shoe, and he took in the trunk of his car, he took an image of it and sent it to Mike Clancy, our creative director, and said, could you do something like this? This is what I want. And every sample that I get, I want proto on there. So and it is, we never experienced anything like that, but he also became our wear tester. And there were times where that was like not necessarily the best thing. And I'll give you an example of that in just a second, but he wanted to be like, he's an 11.5. So we develop in a 9 and an 11.5 now. So that's what we open right from the beginning. We open his size. We would try things, different materials. This propulsion plate, this is the Wednesday before the Masters. We let him know, hey, we're sending this shoe to you, but you may not want to put it in play yet. You may need to. Is
this 23 or 24?
This is 23.
23, okay.
And this had proto that we had screened on the side of the shoe that he wore at Augusta. He gets it on Wednesday. He puts it in play on Thursday. And we're like, that's a competitive round. That's a difficult course to walk. This is unproven technology. He wore it around the home that he was in the night before. He hit balls in it in the morning. He goes, I'm going to put it in play. That's sick. And so for us, we're like, really? Like, are you sure you want to do that? And sure enough, he did it. He's been the best partner. Michael has an ongoing, it's almost a daily text message exchange with him. Hey, what about this? Have you tried this? This is what I'm wearing at this major. Can we do something, that would, go with that scripting? It's been a great partnership. That's for sure.
That's amazing. So has he helped you, because you've been in the industry for so long, sometimes it happens to everybody, but like this tunnel version that we have, has he helped you rewire some of your existing pre-notions of how you go about your process?
Not necessarily rewire, but more of refresh on things that are, I'm a 61-year-old guy.
You don't look 61 at all.
Thank you very much. I appreciate that. It could be the filter on my thing. but I'm not always going to be the consumer for our products. And I learned that way early on when when I first got in the industry. But, Jason would say, hey, I got this gold watch, and he loves this gold watch. Can we do the ornament, which ended up being this ornament? Can we do something in gold? I would never in a million years wear gold, but I'm like, I'm not the consumer. Like, he's asking us to, that's the other thing that came up early on in our conversations. That's the kind of guy he is. We had, at the direction of his agent, we had put together some branding options, which included his signature and JD and we probably had 10 to 12 different iterations when we first presented it. We're like 8 seconds into the presentation when Mike shows the line art for the first time. He goes, I don't want my name on it. And we're like,
interesting.
What? And he's like, I want people to purchase that shoe. Now they can know that I've had some type of association with it, that I've helped develop it, but I don't want people to buy it just because it's Jason Day. I want people to buy it because it's the best shoe out there. Which that's like honest to God, 8 seconds into the conversation, we're like, okay. And Bud, in his defense, he's like, hey, my bad, but I've never had that before. With any other athlete, they want to have, the notoriety or, just the I don't know, the validation of having my name on a signature shoe. It's like, it can be a signature shoe, but it doesn't need to have my name on it. So, but I think just going back and from we need to start with performance, but then the aesthetic of it is equally as important, especially for golfers. So,
yeah. Was there any part of the process in the 87 SC that you guys felt like internally, like you might not get there? To either one of yours, like, we might not get there from a technology standpoint, we might not get there from an aesthetic standpoint that JD is looking for?
No, never, without hesitation. What we brought to the meeting at Pebble is pretty close to what we went to market with.
That's awesome.
They asked us to put it into a virtual reality, a VR. And we did that within like 3 weeks. And,
wow.
He could spin it. He could look at it from all directions. And he's like, let's go. We're ready.
That's so sick.
Yeah. So we were told that we had a certain limited amount of time to meet with him at Pebble. 2 hours later, we were still with Jason and we thought we had a deal in place. He talked to us the next day and he said, I feel like I just went to shoe school last night. So,
that's sick.
Yeah.
Well, and I think like your guys' size too also plays a big role in just being able to be nimble. And this is like a reoccurring thing that I've had on the pod, is just like being at these massive companies, there's more hurdles set in place just because of the ladder of approvals. And then you're also, the scale at which you're working at slows everything down. But because of your guys' industry knowledge, and again, to your guys' point, up until that point, you have already certified from like a technology standpoint. Then it was just delivering it through the scope of an aesthetic shoe that worked for JD specifically.
Yeah. You're absolutely right. I don't, if we hadn't proven the technology in the prior 2 years, we couldn't have got it to market as fast as we did. But to your point, there's not a lot. I mean, and when Mike and I put the company together, we knew, and we had both had experience at bigger brands, that you're having these milestone meetings and there's not a lot of value added to the product for the consumer at those meetings. But it's just, it's a check off. I report to this person, I need to present what we're doing to this person, and then the next level up, and then the next level up after that. And then it needs to necessarily fit into a corporate technology plan or, marketing initiative. Well, there's only a couple people that work on product here, and we go direct to the factory, and Mike and I visit the factory, and we make decisions on the fly, and we've taken what should take, or should not take 18 months from concept to retail. We'd probably cut that in half, just based on just we can make decisions, we can move. We're not gonna skip on the wear testing quality piece of it, but it's all those other milestone meetings that you don't necessarily need to have. It doesn't add value. It doesn't get in our process.
Which is something, I guess, even for me, like my internal clock has always been around that 18th month period, just because I think at a high level, you've always engaged with footwear from these massive brands that just have, like you said, we got to wait 3 months and then it's another 6 months. And then we got to make sure everything is like lined up and all the dots are checked. Yep. You guys are just moving at a different speed.
Exactly. Yeah.
Interesting.
The other nice thing is we have an amazing footwear partner. It's Dean Footwear, and long before, and I've had a relationship with them for going back 30 years, and long before we deserved it from a volume perspective, they gave us a dedicated team, a dedicated sample room, and a dedicated production line, which has been meaningful to our success. And you got smaller brands that are out there struggling, but they're also, they're fighting for space. They're fighting for just resources at the factory that can help them make a better product and bring it to market. And thankfully, we haven't had to do that. So it's been nice. Yeah.
So when you held the 87 SC for the first time, like the final version that was going to hit retail, so to say, like what was the first like memory that popped up in your head?
I can tell you exactly where I put it on I was on the golf course.
Okay.
And I took a Oswego Lake Country Club. I took a picture down on it and I said, "This is it. Like this is the shoe." And I sent it to Mike. And I probably had only played 3 or 4 holes at the time, but I'm like, this is from a stability, traction, comfort perspective, this is it. We nailed it. Let's go. So yeah.
That was the same feeling that I had. I think when I took it out of the box, in my mind, just from a creative and aesthetic standpoint, for me, it's always like, what does this remind me of? The first thing, it didn't remind me of anything. Just aesthetically, it looks so much different. And then when you flip it over and you see the cleat plate, which is something that I always talk about, it's just like a cool aspect of the shoe. And again, it reminded me of, I've been like starting to get into watches more often or more. And when you look at the back of like a watch plate and you can see what's happening behind the scenes, it felt like that moment where there's a lot of technology in the shoe, but you can't see it because it's, packed under the hood or whatnot.
Yeah.
That was like a cool little storytelling piece. And then again, when I got on the course and I was playing with it, I was like, man, I just don't like I'm waiting for something to come up that is either uncomfortable or something's not tied right. I feel uncomfortable, but it just never came throughout the entire round. And I was like, I don't know how I'm going to talk about this in a way that doesn't feel like they paid me, 10 grand to come out here and like talk about the shoe.
Yeah. And you're, when you're doing stuff like that, even when you're wear testing it, you get like hypersensitive, like, oh, does that always feel like that? Does that?
Yeah.
That's what I'm like. Well, I can't find anything like, I'm, Mike and I are probably our toughest critics, and I normally like, Mike, we got to change this a couple millimeters, or we need to look at the durometer of this, and I'm like, no, this is ready to go to market. At the same time, remember, I'm wear testing it at 9. Jason's wearing it at 11.5. He had the same response at the same time. So
yeah. Well, maybe because I'm at 11.5 too. So
yeah, that's it.
That could be the gold standard. That's interesting. Yeah. I mean, I'm somebody who runs a lot. I love to hoop. I played college football. So like I'm been ingrained in like the footwear performance stuff. And again, just, it was the first time experience was, I couldn't believe all the normal checks that my head goes through. Like it just kept, everything was like a green light. Everything was a green light. I was like, man, this is actually really insane.
Yeah. That without the geeking out on all the technology that's in there, you've got the propulsion plate, and then you also have a nitrogen infused midsole, a nitrogen infused footbed, I talked about the strobel construction. I talk about the membrane, the microfiber. We use a Travella microfiber that has like a little more stretch characteristic. So it gives you all the waterproof breathability of a full grain leather. It's more durable, but it's 20% lighter.
Mm-hmm.
Nitrogen is the same gas that we put in airplane tires. And nitrogen, if you put pressure on nitrogen, it gets firmer, it gets more stable, but it also becomes more responsive. So that's why we put in airplane tires, right? For us, remember we talked about this energy return and responsiveness.
Yep.
We can't go too soft. That was another couple of things that we did with Jason was we tried different durometers of this nitrogen infused midsole. Some were too soft, some were too firm, so we ended up right there in the middle on it. But even for me, I'm a size 9, he's an 11.5, so there's a balance there. The length of the outsole kind of mitigates some of that, but you have to get to the same response from who's going to wear it. But for our story, the whole like energy return and responsiveness, what better than nitrogen infused? But we talk about it, but we don't necessarily like focus on it. It's a combination, right? It's the holistic approach of comfort and traction together that we obviously geek out on, but then it's almost like, are we talking too much about the technology and not about the where you just you put it on your feet and you get the response that you get, and that, hey, it fits me right. It's the right underfoot cushioning. It's the nice balance of stability and cushioning. You're a golfer, you're an athlete, so you recognize what you need underfoot. But I had the same response the first time, and I had worn iterations leading up to that, and it was like, this is it, we're ready to go.
Unreal.
Yeah.
Well, and it's not a $300 shoe. That's the thing I think like really at the end of the day stood out to me was there is an insane amount of functional technology that's involved. Aesthetically, it looks good. People are repping it all the time, and it's not a $300 shoe. Right. In the age right now where everything is getting dramatically more expensive, like sitting at a really healthy price point is a big win.
Yeah, absolutely. It took us we needed to from a margin perspective, but we wanted the shoe to be under $200. It ended up being $220. We just needed it from a margin perspective, but if we could have put it at $200, we would have. So
it's wild. That is so wild. Well, again, I think going back to like the growth and quote unquote, like your guys' ability to scale, how are you protecting that initial DNA from the brand book that you put together 5-6 years ago?
It comes down to that we keep going back to that. What we had after the PGA show this year, the Saturday after the PGA show, we had an offsite where we went through what's our strategy going forward. Let's go back to what's important to us, what values are important to us, but from a foundational perspective, what's important to us. And it was to develop 26, 27, the line plan, who to collaborate with. And we've got collaborations coming up in 26. For us, it's as important who we're doing it with, and can we do it for, is it the right brand fit, or is their brand consistent with what the Payntr golf brand is all about? But you got to keep going back and being disciplined on the message. And we have to keep reminding ourselves too, that Jason's part of the message, but the product is the message. The product is what we need to focus on. That's how we're going to grow, as we just keep making better and better product.
Yeah. The association is really important too. I'm glad you brought that up because, like, I guess internally, is there a version of Payntr that you're not necessarily afraid of creating, but to your point, something that you're trying to stay away from?
Jason's unique, and I'll come back on that question. So Jason's unique in that not only does he endorse our product, but he's an equity owner in our company. So he believes in our company, and we've created something together with him that we couldn't have got there by ourselves, that's a nice thing to have. But I think that we get we get as much satisfaction out of having guys on tour that want to wear our product without any kind of endorsement. And we've got a lot of those guys right now. We've got Denny, we've got Isaiah Salinda. We had Mike Weir under contract for 3 years. That expired. We said, Mike, we just can't do it. And he goes, I want to continue to wear your product. We on a weekly basis, we have guys that are looking to try our product, and we're like, Justin Rose, Phil Mickelson wore our product. You saw that at the U.S. Open. He went online and purchased product. So that's like, for us, you get, and those that keep coming back, somebody chooses to try our product once, and those that keep coming back, that's more validation. That's more satisfying from our perspective than, doing it the traditional way. But I think just as a brand, product is obviously the most important thing for us.
To that point of approval, like, is there anybody that maybe I or even somebody internally or externally wouldn't realize that has always been like one of your go-tos for approvals, or someone like you lean on to be like, hey, are we heading in the right direction for this?
Not necessarily, other than, the 10 or 12 guys I play with on a regular basis, and they see, prototypes for the first time. And they're either like, when's that coming? Or I hope you don't go to market with that.
Yeah. The honesty group.
Oh yeah. Like they're like, yeah, we don't care what kind of, brand you're running. You come to the first tee with that shoe again, we're not going to let you back. But those guys, that's your core golfer that plays, 50 times a year, that they're also gonna buy the newest driver and the latest iron and the latest footwear if they think it's going to be a performance advantage, right? So, and they're not just purchasing the product because they're my buddies. They're, it's truly, and they keep coming back. So we know we're doing something right. So
yeah. So all these years, double retiree, what's something outside of retirement that you think you've sacrificed? I mean, even specifically to Payntr, knowing that you're going into like your second retirement stint, was there something that you like gave up to start the gears up again?
Yeah, playing more golf. Yeah.
Isn't that weird?
Yeah.
Even for me, like I was just telling my wife the other day, I was like, I think I played the least amount of golf this year in the last like 4 or 5 years, which is wild, but I'm around it every day, which is insane.
So that's the thing. Like you can't feel sorry for me that I didn't retire. I've been making golf shoes for a living. I'm not saving lives. I've been able to combine this love and this passion that I've had from high school for 35 years. Like it's, and you're doing the same thing, right? And and that's what I say to Mike. We have 3 children. That's what I say to them. Just combine something that you love, because you're going to be working a long time. Just combine something you love with, it doesn't matter what you get paid. You'll spend whatever you get paid. Just enjoy doing what you're doing. And to this date, I think the 3 kids have taken us up on that. They definitely look at. I mean, goodness, I've been making golf shoes for 30 plus years, right?
Yeah.
What could be better than that, right?
Yeah. What does your closet look like? Is it just packed to the gills, or do you have like a storage unit set up or anything?
Well, so I don't have any storage unit, but I do have as many shoes as my wife on either side of our closet. I've been a sample size, all right, so a size 9. Unfortunately, my oldest son is also a size 9, so anytime he comes to the house, he goes shopping.
Oh, so the hand-me-downs, yeah, are real.
Yeah. And they're not hand-me-downs. He's going shopping and taking what he likes. Which is, whoa, hold on. I like that one. Can I keep that one? So,
yeah. One of the last questions that I had too, is there anything, I guess from a category standpoint outside of golf, because I have this reoccurring segment that people really like, this not for golf, which is taking things that weren't intentionally designed for golf, but they work anyways, just because I think stylistically and even functionally sometimes it naturally can make its way to golf. Like, is there anything outside of the category that you're either interested in or you see as being like a great design tech space to take a look at?
To your point, I mean, it's there's multiple product categories that you could use for multiple end uses. I look at like trail running. I look at like outerwear stuff that, I mean, you think about golfing, side hill, uphill, downhill, all weather conditions that could definitely work in golf. As long as obviously golf is a lateral sport. So as long as there's lateral stability, but all the element, all the traction, features that are in the outdoor space or trail running space are, very applicable as long as there's some lateral stability to it.
Mm-hmm. That by far has gotten the most love. That's something that I think maybe even from where we grew up, being in the Pacific Northwest, like plays a big role into it. But again, I think there's a lot that translate there, even just aesthetically, where colors and blocking and again, like materials is always really interesting.
Yeah.
The last question that I have that I ask everybody on the way out, what's the story behind the one item in your closet that you'll never get rid of? It doesn't have to be golf. It could be golf adjacent. Just anything in the closet that you don't think you'll ever get rid of.
From a fashion item or just any item?
Any item.
I've got a few signed. I actually have one that's sitting on my windowsill over there from Tiger.
Really?
That came from, we went to a first fitting session with Tiger. And do you want to see it?
Yeah, put it on.
So remember the day, right? So this is from Tiger. This is the first shoe we fitted him in. We were told what his size was prior to. Look at the spikes on this. Right? That is a posted spike right there. That is
wild.
Yeah. So that was signed by Tiger, and it actually says, "Mike, get me some shoes that fit." Tiger Woods. So my apparel, we went to meet with him to get him fitted before he went to Milwaukee, and we were told what size. We brought a variety of sizes, but I bring this down, and my apparel counterpart was also there fitting him in apparel, and he had a great sense of humor, and he's like, "Tiger, what, like, really, you're gonna take the advice of this guy? He can give me these shoes that fit." So Tiger wrote that on there. So that's a keepsake, which I'll always, because it's just a fond memory. The time that that we developed product with Tiger is amazing. So
insane.
Yeah.
No, that's a great piece for sure. This has been an awesome conversation. I definitely want to link back up just because I know you guys are working on a ton. One of the things that I also have always really appreciate what you guys do in the industry, which I just talked about a couple of days ago specifically, was I think the way that you guys also approach some of these one-of-one, like call them customs for JD, player exclusive. Again, going back to like what the industry has always done in basketball is like being able to have some of these storytelling opportunities to do some of these player exclusives. Like that is really meaningful. I wish more footwear companies would do it. You're one of the very few, and have always done it in a really great way. And then also having the authority of JD doing those unboxings has always been really fun to watch too.
We have right now, I can tell you that we have 2, 4, 6, about 6 or 8 in the hopper right now that we'll have over the next, like, probably 4 to 6 months that we'll launch. Yeah. So we can introduce those to you. And if we had known you're 11.5, we could have made those in your size as well. Or
shoot,
another pair for you. So yeah. I'll see what I got here too that we didn't end up going. We did big logo too, so that was we might have one of those sticking around. So we'll look at that.
There you go. All right, that's a wrap for today's episode. If you're feeling the vibe, hit that subscribe button and drop us a quick review. It helps us keep the conversation going and growing. For more golf fashion, follow us over at Skratch and Golf Projects. We're always serving up style and stories that make this game what it is. And if you're hungry for even more, head over to Skratch.golf, where our collective stories live. Until next time, dress well and play fast. Peace.